We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hammonton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another spectacular show here on the Sports Box. I am Hammonton Mike Galetta, along with my partner in crime, Brian, the Ranger Tard. And yes, this is highly opinionated. Hi, Brian.
How are you?
Oh, you know what? Just
living the dream.
Living the dream. And tonight, very, very special guest on tonight. So let's get right to it as we always do. We love bringing guests on. 13-year NHL player. He was selected in the third round from the 1988 NHL entry draft by the Philadelphia Flyers. He also made stops in Winnipeg, Anaheim, and Edmonton. And at Flyers games, I know him because the crowd normally yelled, "Roo!" Let's bring him up and talk to former NHL goaltender Dominic Roussel. Dominic, what's up, buddy?
Hi, Michael. Hi, Brian. Nice to be on the show.
Always a pleasure to have Flyers on the show. Always.
Professional athletes of any kind, and I respect anybody who got a chance to play the game, regardless of or not I rooted for that team. It's all about, the career that you had in the NHL. So thank you for the time. We absolutely appreciate that.
Yep. Absolutely. So Dominic, I guess I'll lead off. In 1991, that's when I guess you were brought up to the Flyers. You came to a team that was last in the division and eighth in the then Wales Conference. You played with goalies such as Gar Snow, Tommy Soderstrom, Kenny Reggett, and of course Ron Hextall. I guess my question to you is: in '92, Hextall was traded away, and in '90, the year after that, I believe Kenny Reggett was traded away. Did you feel that was your time to really, step up and take the goaltending role, or were you kind of blown back at both those trades?
No, it was definitely, it's your dream, man. Your whole life, you're dreaming of this, getting this opportunity, and I got it at a very young age. And when I got to the Flyers, the first couple of training camps, there was Ken Reggett was there, Ron Hextall was there, Pete Peters was there. It was a big hill to be able to go over, and I did well enough, so they made a few moves and made room for me. So I was definitely. I definitely wanted it. Was I ready 100%? Probably not, but I was 21 at the time. And I think, when I'm thinking back, one or two extra years in the American League would have helped me to get a little bit more maturity and, getting better at certain things like puck handling. Hextall was so good at it. So it was important that I was able to do a good job at it. So it took me a few years to get that with the help actually of Hexy. Helped me a lot with that.
I was going to ask you about that. So a lot of times we hear in pro sports, when kids come up and start to take on roles, that some of the veterans might not be super welcoming of them coming into the team. So when you came into that 91-92 team and you were there with a guy like Ron Hextall and a guy like Ken Reggett, what was that experience like? Were they welcoming to you? Were they looking to be helpful as far as showing you the ropes? How was that?
Well, it was a combination of competition and helping out. Hexy helped me out with a bunch of things. I even changed my stick, changed my pattern. I was asking him questions, and he said, "I do this because of that." And he had a curve on the heel, and the rest of his blade was straight. And I asked him, "Why is it straight?" And he says, "Well, I have more surface on the ice to cover the low shots." I thought that's pretty smart. And he said the backhand's better when the stick is straight. So I actually changed my pattern, and he gave me some really good tips on playing the puck. Here in Quebec, we were trained very, very well to stop the puck, but there was no training for handling the puck, and nobody ever helped me with that in juniors or whatever. So when I got to the league, a lot of times I would come out to play the puck and not taking a look and a second look, and sometimes making the wrong plays. And he kind of gave me a couple tips that really, really helped, and I finally got better at it, so I could be at least helping my defensemen and not putting the team in trouble.
So before we take a step forward, I'm going to take a step back, Dominic, and go back to when you were younger, growing up, dreaming of the days you were going to play in the NHL. Who was the guy you really followed? I know you were you're a Quebec guy. Were you following the Nordiques? Were you big like Mario Gosselin fan? Were you way back in the day? Who did you follow as a goalie?
Well, we followed the big rivalry between the Nordiques and the Canadians.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
But even before that, the reason why I started playing goal is because of Ken Dryden, watching him winning the cups, and I was 7 or 8 years old when I saw him, and I kept bugging my parents that I wanted to play as a goalie, and they didn't want me to, and they thought it was too much stress for them, especially my mom. And the first time I went to the ice rink, I was dressing up as a player, and the coach came in the room and said, "The goalie's not here today. Anybody wants to?" Dad's all right. I go like this, and I was like, no. And they lent me some equipment. I got on the ice, and I was so used to playing outdoor as a goalie because all the kids were older than me and shooting at me. So I already had like the agility and the coordination and stuff. So my first time on the ice, I did really well. So the coach said, "You should be our goalie. You should be our goalie." So that's how I started. And the reason was Ken Dryden. He was like my hero, first guy. And then after that, it was Patrick Roy, Dan Bouchard. I loved the butterfly style. I thought it was really something that I wanted to learn and get better at. So these two goalies were butterfly goalies. So I followed Patrick until I got to the NHL and got to play against him.
Yeah. You were a member of the Flyers at a very transitional time in the franchise's history. So that 92-93 season, really a lot of the team that you had come up with in that first year was disassembled to bring in this stud kid, Eric Lindros, who was in a contract dispute with Quebec. It was a very eventful summer, and you and then Tommy Soderstrom kind of, split the net that following year. And, Lindros came in, very much like a larger than life figure, which is really what he was in juniors, but he took on a whole different level when he became the face of the Flyers franchise. What was that whole, I don't want to use the word circus, 'cause it's not really that, but just that whole experience of there's this huge, larger than life guy coming in, young kid, but just ready to kind of take the team and the city on his shoulders.
Well, I think the first thing that came to mind for the guys on the team was that we're getting a player that could have a huge impact on helping us win and maybe win a Stanley Cup. It would remain to be seen at the time, but as soon as we saw him jump on the ice in practice and the first few exhibitions, we could see that he was going to be like the dominant player. So it was a very positive thing for everybody, of course. And he came in and worked so hard at everything and became a leader very quickly in the locker room. But as a team, we needed some time, like you said, Brian. We lost, Mark Hall that year, Kerry Huffman, and we had a lot of young defensemen. Me and Tommy were young goalies, so it was difficult. The transition was difficult until I would say until Terry Murray got the job as the head coach and changed a few things in our system that helped me, and actually Hexie was there before and helped us both. And then when Tommy was there, the same thing. So, it took a few years, tough years, and then the good years started to come in, and we were, I used to say, well, I was there for the tough years, now I'm there for the good years. So I was there for a few years until I got traded, but we got a pretty solid team. Like we lost in the semifinal that one year against Jersey, and we were so close. We lost 2 games in overtime. And a lot of people at the time said that the final was happening right there in the semifinals between us and the Devils.
And the one game that year, I think that at least that 92-93 that really stood out was probably when you were the home game and Mario Lemieux made his surprise return to the lineup after missing the time, getting the treatment for Hodgkin's. And I watched kind of what you thought about that one goal you let in that you kind of don't really care because you were still on the ice for an amazing moment. And I watched that goal. I don't think you really made a bad play. I mean, it's Mario Lemieux, right? Like it's not like it's just another guy.
No, that's not a Flyers fan. That's a Rangers fan saying
no,
that.
I get it. I thought you played it just fine. I can't blame you for that goal at all. But tell me what that whole experience was like, because again, Flyers fans don't have the stigma of being totally welcoming to, the opposition, and to their credit, they gave Mario a rousing standing ovation, which was great to see in retrospect.
Yeah, it was very touching, and the atmosphere in the rink was when the fans got up and start cheering and clapping and all, the noise and the spectrum was amazing. It was almost close to a playoff atmosphere there. So it was really, really special, and he wasn't supposed to play. Like, nobody knew he was going to play that night. So everybody was kind of surprised, and I thought kind of the same than you, Brian. I thought the Flyers were like so tough on other players from other teams, like Yager as an example. Was getting laughed at every time he jumped on the ice, touched the puck. But it shows that people, to me, it showed that people in Philly have a good heart. And I think everybody saw that, and hopefully everybody in the league saw the same thing. And, that's one of the first thing I noticed when I went to my first training camp in Philly. I was 18 years old, and people talking to me, like the fans and people on the street, anywhere I went, restaurants, people were so nice and friendly. So I don't know if it's the same right now in 2021, but back then it was really something special.
So you were with the Flyers, like we said, in '88. You were drafted. You were with the juniors, things like that. You came up in '91 with the team. You were pretty much there till '96 until the Winnipeg trade happened. Now, you were a starter from '93 to '96 with that. Now, when the Winnipeg trade happened, was it something that you were kind of shocked with, or was it it might be time to move on a little bit and maybe get another opportunity somewhere?
Yeah, it was a strange situation. If you remember, Eric's dad was his agent, and the same thing was for me. My dad was my agent, and Mr. Clark at the time, he didn't like that too much. And
I'm shocked to hear that.
that the dad would be an agent to his son. So, and the negotiations didn't go too well, right before that. And I ended up being put aside, even though I had a really good training camp, and basically waiting to see what's going to happen and not knowing. I knew a lot of teams were interested. Well, a lot of teams, at least 4 or 5 teams were interested at the time. And I had to wait quite a bit in the stands before anything happened. And then finally I got traded. But being in the stands, not knowing what was going on, was very hard. And my heart was with the Flyers, and it still is. Even after I got traded, it was still in Philly. So my sole goal was to win the cup with the Flyers. And, today I think about it a lot that I didn't. And so when I got traded, it was mixed emotions. I wanted to play, of course, and I wasn't playing anymore. So it was a positive thing for my career, but at the same time, it was a tough separation for me.
Mm-hmm. Question coming in from Noah watching the show. Who is your favorite goalie to watch in the game today?
There's two, and the first one I would say is Vasilevsky, because the technique he's using is similar to what I was trying to do. The butterfly, very compact, both pads on the ice, and being in a position to have a chance on rebounds and stuff like that. He's got everything. I mean, he's big, he's fast, he's quick on his feet. He covers a lot of net. He's got good blocker and glove hand. He's intense, he's focused. I mean, he's got the whole package. And then I would say a close second, Carey Price, when you see him play like he's playing this year in the playoffs. But I picked Vasilevsky first because of his consistency since he started in the league.
You mentioned that when Terry Murray came there, things kind of really, changed for the Flyers. He kind of tweaked things that weren't really working, there. And I know that the years that you were in Philly, you had 4 head coaches in a semi-short period of time. I think it was 5 or 6 years. Obviously, Paul Holmgren, Bill Dineen, Terry Simpson, and Terry Murray. For those of us who obviously are not professional athletes, what does that do for a team when the head coach, it has that turnstile type of feel? Does that affect the team as far as gaining any sort of, not momentum, but just consistency and continuity? What kind of impact does that have on a team when it keeps changing head coaches?
It did have a big impact. You don't get any consistency. The system changes when you get a new coach. It takes time to get used to the system, and it takes time for the team to be playing as a team in that system. And when you're switching coach and philosophy every year, every 2 years, it's very hard. And we talked about it amongst us, the players, and we said hopefully we'll get some stability. That was missing a lot, I think, in those years. Way too many changes, and teams that have success will try to keep their their coaching staff there for a while. Of course, if you keep losing, it's just not going to happen. But at some point, you have to stick with somebody and trust in the people that you have, I think. And yes, it does affect the team for sure. I mean, as a goalie, the defenseman will position themselves in a certain way under a certain coach, and your defenseman is there so you can challenge or whatever. And if there's a change in the coaching staff and the defenseman is in another spot now it changes your game a little bit as far as a goalie's perspective. So yeah, it really didn't help the situation.
So you're off to Winnipeg. You played with guys up there like Nikolai Hobby-Bullen, who I'm a big fan of the Bullen Wall. Yeah. Tim Cheveldae was up there, who actually was once a Flyer for a short period of time. But I find 97 interesting. He went to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks with Guy Herbert. How was it like to play with him? Because I thought he was a really good underrated goalie. I mean, he played for the Ducks in a time, I think, where they were kind of hit or miss. They weren't maybe the best team in the league at times, but they were a good team. I thought Guy Herbert was a good goalie. What did you think of Guy?
Yeah, he was underrated. And that during that season, we finished the season in the top, as far as goaltending. Me and him, we were in the top 3 or 4 in the league as far as the save percentage and goals against average. And he signed a big contract right after that season. And he was really solid, very confident goalie, great guy too. And he was underrated. We didn't get, he didn't get a lot of opportunities to play in the playoffs, being in an expansion team. And we used to room together, and we talked about this stuff. And he said, I wish I'd be recognized a little more, but we have to make the playoffs more often and win a few rounds, and then you get the recognition. So, but we had Solani, we had Korea, we had guys like that, Steve Ruchin, Trevodovsky on defense. But then they brought in Kevin Haller, which I played with in Philly. Mm-hmm. So they were putting the pieces together slowly, but it took some time before everything gelled, and they finally won the cup with J.S. Giger and Nets there. But he was definitely an underrated goalie. He wasn't big at all. He had good hands, good feet, but he wasn't the 6'2", 6'3", size goalie that we see today or more.
You didn't have a very long stint in Winnipeg, but you were there for the end of the original iteration of the Winnipeg Jets, because they would be moving to Phoenix the following year. Obviously, fan bases get crushed, when teams are up and taken away. And there was a period in the NHL where there was a couple teams that went through that. As a player, and I know you were only there for a short period of time, but can you talk about what that kind of felt like in the the waning hours and days of the Winnipeg Jets as we knew them at the time?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for everybody. And I'm talking more for the fans and for the people working in the organization. There's a lot of people employed, and some of them were there for years. And people were crying and everything. They lost the team, but they lost their jobs, and the fans lost pretty much everything. And it was very, very emotional. And we made the playoffs. We had to work really hard, but we made the playoffs. And then we lost against the Red Wings in the first round. And the last game, it was the goodbye last game. And the fans were up on their feet with with the white flags and everything, white towels. And what an emotional moment. And it was the same for us, the players. We really felt it. We really tried to give everything we had for that last season there. And then the team moved to Phoenix. And as far as I'm concerned, it was really, really strange, because they offered me a contract verbally. They wanted me back with the team. And then when the team decided to move to Phoenix, at a certain point, they pretty much fired everybody. The coaches, the GM, everybody was out. And all of a sudden, there was no contract anymore. Yeah. And they ended up going back to Philly, if I remember correctly. Went back to Philly. So, but yeah, it was very, very emotional moment, and the fans must be so happy now that they have that team back.
Yeah, for sure.
So we go to current day, Dominic. We talk about the NHL today, and obviously I talked before a show about your goaltending, watching the goaltenders in the league and things like that. What do you think of the league nowadays? I mean, it's probably come a long way from the 90s in the style back then to the style it is now. Do you feel that the league is a lot better than it once was and heading in the right direction, or could there be some things that you would maybe tweak with the league?
I think they're going in the right direction. The only thing I would say is that, if you compare the two eras, the era I played in was more physical in the regular season. In the regular season, because watch the playoffs now, and it's very physical.
Yep.
So, but the refereeing was getting better, and all of a sudden they're letting too much stuff go. I think it could be dangerous for a lot of players. The sticks in the head and charging and all the stuff we see. Guys could get injured at any moment, and that's how it was when I played. But that's one thing that they could try to make sure they go back on the right track. But as far as the speed is better. The release of the shots are better. There's more passing than when I played. When I played, there were 1 or 2 passes in a shot. Now sometimes there's 3 or 4 passes, and guys skate so much faster. And you could see the European influence. When I played, there were more dump-ins, and coming at the blue line, there's no room. You dump it in. Now guys get to the blue line, and sometimes they'll just pass the puck back to the defenseman, which is at his blue line, and getting some momentum, trying to get back in the zone again. That's from it's a European style of hockey, so you could see those things that have changed. And the goalies are way better than what I think. There's a big difference.
Yeah. I hate the behind the net though, the puck handling. I hate that. And the goalie comes in. And listen, like I said, I've been a goalie for years. The goalie comes out. He's part of the game. He can get checked just like anybody else. I think that's the only thing I don't like is they defend the goalie too much. He's more like the quarterback of the game, which is fine, but the goalie's a player too. When he comes out of the net, he's fair game for people, and he should be able to move the puck around as much as he can, like Hextall did.
It's got the most padding too.
True.
Yeah. True. But I thought it's funny to bring it up, Michael, because I was watching the last game, the Canadiens against the Jets, and I'm like, when I used to go out play the puck, I would get hit. And now they just don't touch their goalies. And I don't know what would happen. Probably some guys would drop the gloves. That's what happened in my days. But the fact that the goalies are limited, that's what you mean, I think, Michael. They can't go outside. They can't go in the corners anymore. To me, it makes it a little bit less interesting. Has it really made it better for the forechecking? I'm not so sure about that. But watching Hexy handling the puck was something really, really amazing. I mean, the stuff he could do with the puck, and it was amazing. So that's kind of we missed that a little bit, I think, too. I agree with that.
So now I know that you're running a goaltending school up there. I'm curious, being that you have that mindset, you're always looking at goalies, trying to make them better, trying to help them, really make their game as good as it can be. When you're watching a game, an actual NHL game, can you actually enjoy it, or do you find yourself kind of critiquing the goaltending and say, you should probably do this differently, do that differently? They always say coaches see the game so differently than anybody else because they're analyzing it in a different way. So now that you're at this next stage in your hockey career where now you are teaching the game to others, can you enjoy a hockey game for itself, or do you see just are super analytical as far as seeing what the goalies are doing?
I do enjoy the games, but I have that tendency, of course, to try to look at every little detail of what the goalie's trying to do, what the players are trying to do, and there's so many interesting little plays that guys do now that I didn't see when I played. The creativity is very, very much fun. Of course, if the Flyers are playing, I'm going to be rooting for them. I played 3 years for the Ducks, so same thing there. But besides that, I tend to overanalyze everything and sit down and with my wife talking about all the. She's probably like, "Shut up," I'm talking about all the little goalie things that they do, and look, he pushed left, and then Today, that power push thing, that's when the goalie's on his knees on the butterfly and stays on the butterfly but pushes across. That started about 97 when I played for the Ducks. I think François Allaire brought that new technique, and the guys are so good at it. And I'm trying to look at everything they do there and overanalyze a little bit, but also I'm able to enjoy the games, and especially in the playoffs.
Yeah. So Dominic, my last question to you is, you talk about expansion. You were with the Ducks when they were pretty much an expansion team, and to that effect. And we won't get into my thoughts about this new Seattle team. I'm not in favor of it at all.
He's not a fan. He's made that clear on a number of occasions.
No, I think you have a team that close to Vancouver. You don't need a team that close. I was going to ask you. My question was, there's two teams probably left that were there when you were playing that are no longer have teams right now. That's the Hartford Whalers and the Quebec Nordiques. Do you feel like I do that they should have teams back in the league, and other teams probably should not have teams in the league?
As far as the Nordiques, I think it would help the league to have the Nordiques back because of that rivalry between the Canadians and the Nordiques. I think it made the Canadian side of the NHL better than it is right now, even though it's good. The rivalries are always good for hockey, and the Hartford Whalers. I don't know if you mean exactly in Hartford, but which team shouldn't be there? I don't think I could say a team shouldn't be there right now. But bringing new teams, there's already a lot of teams, so maybe one. Seattle is coming, but one or two teams. But if it gets too big, the talent gets diluted so much. Like when I started, there were 24 teams. So when there's 24 teams, you got teams like the Penguins that had Lemieux, Jagger, Stevens, Samuelson, Francis. You can go around the league. Back then, there were a bunch of star players on the teams. Now, some teams do, like the Lightning, as an example, but a lot of teams they just don't have like a lot of stars on their team. So it dilutes. I hope it's the right pronunciation.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Dilutes the talent, and all of a sudden, I think hockey could be better if they don't, if it gets up to 34 or 33 teams, it might be too much, and you lose track. I mean, which teams play? How can you follow everything? There's so many teams, so it's hard for the fans even to know the players from the different teams. There's so many teams. Back when I played, everybody knew every player from every team. So that's it. I don't think it would help to have maybe one or two, but I think that would be it.
And it's such a great point by you, because that is a big reason the game changes, is because, again, the talent pool does spread out a little bit more. So you don't have necessarily the concentration of skill and talent on fewer teams, and that lets other people in the league, which is great for the players because more people can have a chance to play the game. But it does, guys who wouldn't have made the league 15 years ago now do, because there's just more open spots. That's really an excellent point by you. My final question is, you can probably see the logo on my hat and the jersey over my shoulder, number 13 for the Rangers of Alexis Lafreniere. You being up in that area, I'm sure just from proximity, have an opinion on the player. A bit of a rough rookie season, but it was a weird season. It was a weird year for everybody in the world, right? So you don't really read too much into that. What's your take on the player and his future in the league?
Well, I see a lot of talent. I mean, he needs maturity, of course. Everybody's going to say that. But, he's got speed. He's got the instinct, the goal-scoring instinct. He's big enough to be physical. So when playoff time will come for the Rangers, I think he's got the physique to be able to get in the mix. Now it's just about learning how to get in what position to score goals. Like, when you're at this age and you're a player, you should be watching the best players in the league and see where they are when they get the puck, the spots that they're on the ice, and how they get their goals. So, but he's got talent. I mean, people talk a lot about him here in Quebec. He was a great player in juniors. Give him a couple years, and I think he's not going to be a Mario Lemieux or Ovechkin or anything like that, but I think he's a guy that could score goals. I think he's going to be able to score 30, 35 goals, maybe even 40 at some point.
Love hearing it.
Well, Dominic, we want to really thank you very, very much for getting on with us and talking about the all-time hockey and what your thoughts of the league and things like that. It's always great to hear from a pro about the league.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Thanks for having me.
Wait, before we go, Dom, I got to give you one just to remind you of all time sakes.
It's better than boo. Sometimes I didn't know it was boo.
You know what? A lot of people did say that they thought it was boo, but I'm like, the guy's playing good.
Nah.
It's a Roo. It's for Roussel. Don't.
Thank you.
Dominic, thank you very much. I
Thanks,
really
guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Welcome.
Dominic Roussel from
Old goalie. Listen, he had an underrated career, I thought. I think he never really got a fair shot to really win that job in Philly longer term. I think there was a little bit of impatience, even at a younger age. I remember him playing and how, he was a very talented kid. And when he was a starter, his numbers were pretty good in that era. People forget that it was a different game back then compared to what it is now. Much more wide open in a way until the mid 90s when it kind of tightened up, but a lot more goal scoring back then. So
I remember, not only with him with the Flyers and being in a backup role and playing in 93 to 96 in the starter, but I remember him going to Anaheim and I remember him rotating with Guy Herbert and they were a good tandem that year. They made the run that year. So, like you said, they had Correa, Solani. That team was pretty good. I think even Pronger was there at that time. Pronger wasn't there, but no, they had a solid team. And like you said, should have been a starter. I think he just kind of got in different situations. Maybe it wasn't the right time.
Yeah. And I asked him because I really wanted to know, when you're going, and we always say with quarterbacks, different coordinators and stuff, but when you're a goaltender and they keep changing the system in front of you every year, how are you supposed to gain any sort of continuity? And of course it matters.
Yeah. It's tough to be a goalie and go back and forth. You got to be the guy that stays in there and gets the rhythm and gets everything going for you. So that's the whole.
Absolutely.
No, another great interview. So
absolutely.
Beautiful. So, I guess that's short night tonight. We're gonna wrap it up.
We have guests. That's the show tonight.
That's it. So hey, another absolutely marvelous show from Highly Opinionated Crew. We want to thank you for watching the Dominic Roussel interview. We will have more guests on in the future, more great topics as we get closer to football season. It's going to be great. Get through the up and coming NHL season, the playoffs. We'll be talking, I guess, more and more about them the upcoming weeks because they're good, folks. You got to watch Islanders Boston series. That's a crazy series right now. It's unbelievable. So
listen, if they find a way to get by Boston, Tampa's going to destroy that team.
And not for nothing, the Canadians are playing phenomenal too. Carey Price is really carrying this team right now. So I never would have thought they're going into the Jets and dominating the way they're doing. So this is
100%, absolutely,
really good playoff series right now. Actually, the Lanch and the Golden Knights go at it tonight, which will be interesting as well. So, again, thank you for watching us. For myself, Hammonton, Michaeletta, and Brian, the Ranger Retard, thank you for watching Highly Opinionated. We will see you next week.
See ya.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Highly Opinionated Show on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hammonton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.